doing a whole, we'll talk about it a little bit. Initially, this is the center line of the path of totality as things were originally planned. And there's a little bit of a difference in the plan that I'll talk about. This is the initial point at which we arrive on a track that we're going to fly across the target point, which we want to cross at 9:43:30 Universal Time. And to get a sense of this, this is the aircraft motion over time. The moon shadow is going to sneak up on us running about 4 to 5 times faster, 3,200 kilometers per hour. We'll overtake the aircraft, so right now we're in totality. And right now we're out of totality, the black line segment. So this is what we had originally planned, and many of you saw on my website information has talked about this. We actually had to shift our track about 15 nautical miles to the southeast because of restrictions in airspace. Now, nobody should worry about that. We're going to be losing 2 seconds of totality as a result of that. But we're operating in a pretty congested airspace, so we need to do that. The basic plan is to leave Düsseldorf, and we'll hear from Manuel about the time in the morning and the gathering place and so forth at the airport. As we heard altogether, it's a little less than a 6-hour flight, 2 hours and 45 minutes or so on the way out to the point where we're going to make a turn onto this track and actually get this early and we're doing some hold maneuvers. And then traverse into what we call the totality run. The little section in yellow there is where we'll be moving when we see the eclipse. We actually get on that track 9 minutes before mid-eclipse, so we'll be about 7 minutes to, if you have cameras, focus your cameras, see the partial eclipse for a little bit. We're not going to see much of the partial eclipse on the way out. The sun's going to be behind the airplane. So we pick it up about 9 minutes before totality, see the eclipse, and then come back. So this is sort of the same picture, but it shows at the beginning of our totality run over here, when we turn onto this track, the moon shadow is going to be behind us. That was the animation you saw before. And it's going to be moving this way, and then eclipse right here, and then we're at the end of the totality run when we turn back and head back to Düsseldorf-Airport. So for those who want to know the exact times, and I can give these to you again, and I will have them posted on the airplane. This is the actual circumstances of what we're going to see. We do have a restriction that was imposed on Friday on the airspace that we're operating in because of the large number of flights that are operating. Air traffic control, obviously, safety is #1 priority. So we will put on a restricted track and replan exactly what we're going to do. And so there's a little bit of a difference in timing. We have the same intercept time, 09:43 UTC, so that's no change. There's a very slight difference in the mid-eclipse course. It's different by about 1 degree. So the sun's not going to be straight out the window. It's going to be 1 degree off straight out the window. So it shouldn't affect anybody very much. The shift in the intercept, as I said, is about 15.5 miles. And so you can get an idea of that. I'll have a picture of that. The actual half width, if you think about the width of the moon shadow looking along it, from the center of the shadow to the end is about 120 nautical miles. So we're displaced a little bit from the center, but not that much. It doesn't have a big effect on totality. 3 minutes and 43 seconds is what we should get, plus or minus 10 seconds depending upon wind. Wind is the big factor on the duration of totality. So the specific times, the universal time for the beginning of the totality run when we turn onto this track, when we expect second contact, modulo wind a little bit, mid-eclipse, the end of the eclipse, the end of the totality run. The orientation that's shown in the view, that this is the disk of the moon, which appears a little bit bigger than the disk of the sun, the area blocked and what's remaining of the sun at the beginning of the totality run. And it will look in a horizon system. Let's see if I can get this right here. Yeah, the progression of the moon across the face of the sun will be shown like this. So you'll see a shrinking crescent. It's not exactly symmetrical. If you look closely, you can see it's sort of tilted a little bit, but will be disappearing on the left side there as you're looking at the sun, and then after totality, reappearing on the right side. And again, that's 3 minutes and 45 seconds of totality. For some reason, red is not projecting, and I apologize. This is actually supposed to show 2 tracks. One is the track at 35,000 feet, which is where we were shifted to with our position, basically, and this is the track at sea level. So there is a bit of a difference between those on the ground looking at where their path of totality is and where our path of totality is at 35,000 feet. And we will, of course, be observing at 35,000 feet, so we're shifted with respect to the envelope a bit. So this is the actual track. with the changes that we had from air traffic control, so you can see where we're actually going. We'll be coming out, and again, there'll be some holding and maneuvering before we actually enter into this point. We're not going to be on center line. We're going to be 15 nautical miles south of center line. We make this turn. We'll be targeting for this position and continuing here. At an altitude of 35,000 feet, our horizon is about 360 kilometers away. So as the moon shadow begins to approach, this is actually where the moon shadow will be when we finish making this turn here. And we'll be making an approach, of course, where we have a nice view, if it's clear, which we hope, on the ground of the Faroe Islands. The shadow will, of course, be over the Faroes, and lots of our friends are going to see the eclipse as well. This is how far the horizon is, as seen from the aircraft, 360 kilometers. So we should have a good view of the Faroe Islands and watch the shadow go over if we're afforded the opportunity to have clear skies below. So normally when you talk about seeing an eclipse, we talk about a progression. This is not in the orientation. We would see it from first contact, the beginning of the partial phase, through the partial phases, and what's called the diamond ring, which we'll talk a little bit about, through the main part of the eclipse when we see the corona, and then out the other side. But because we'll be flying out from Düsseldorf, we actually don't get to see much of the partial eclipse, and this is an exaggeration. As I said, we pick it up about 7 minutes before totality, and end about 3 or 4 minutes after totality before we turn back at the pilot's discretion and what ATC is telling us after the eclipse to go back to Düsseldorf. So the sort of phenomenon we'll see is a little bit about the end of the partial phase. If there are clouds, broken clouds below us at a multiple stacked level, you can actually look for layers of cloud on another cloud and see how really the shadows are on those clouds as the sun